You ever get that feeling like you're completely alone in a room? Well, here's a little secret. You're not. You never are. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this incredible, invisible network that connects, well, everything on this planet. We're talking about the harmony of the ecosystem. It's this beautiful, delicate dance, and guess what? We're all part of it.
Seriously, just stop for a second, right now, wherever you are. You're not alone. I mean, really look around. Maybe there's a tiny spider building a web in the corner, or that sunlight hitting your skin, or, hey, even the air you're breathing. It's teeming with bacteria doing their thing. We're basically swimming in this huge interconnected world, and most of the time, we don't even realize it's there.
All right, so let's start peeling back some of those layers, shall we? Let's look past the world we think we see and check out the hidden architecture that's holding the whole thing together.
You know, whether you're in a huge, dense forest or just walking through a city park, heck, even looking at a puddle after it rains, they all have something in common. They're all ecosystems. The best way to think about it, it's like a really, really busy neighborhood. And all the residents, both the living ones and, well, the non-living ones, are constantly bumping into each other, interacting.
So, who lives in these neighborhoods? What are they made of? Turns out, every single ecosystem is built from two basic kinds of parts. It's time to meet the players.
Okay, first up, you've got your biotic components. Easy way to remember this, bio means life. So this is the entire cast of living characters. We're talking plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, yep, even us. Basically, if it's alive or if it was alive, it's biotic.
But, a cast of characters needs a stage to perform on, right? And that's where the abiotic components come in. These are the non-living parts of the ecosystem, but they're absolutely crucial. Think about it. Sunlight gives energy. You've got water, soil, the very air we breathe. The show can't go on without them.
And this is where it gets really cool. You don't have to go to some huge national park to see all this in action. Nope, you could find a whole world in a patch of ground that's no bigger than your desk. Imagine a colony of ants, that's biotic, making their way through the soil and around little rocks, that's abiotic. See, they're completely connected. It's like life and the environment are just two sides of the very same coin.
Okay, to really get how this whole system works, we've got to start small. Let's zoom all the way in. The first piece of the puzzle is the individual. Just one single organism, like one bird, just doing its thing.
But, of course, that one bird is rarely all by itself. When you get a whole group of the same species hanging out together, say a whole flock of those birds in a tree, now you've got a population. All right, let's zoom out a little more. That flock of birds, they're sharing their home with, say, that colony of ants we talked about and a whole forest of trees. When all these different populations start living and interacting in the same place, that's what we call a community.
And now for the big picture. Let's pull it all together. You take that whole community, all the living things, and you add in their stage, the abiotic stuff, the soil, the water, the sunlight, and boom, there it is, the complete picture, a fully functioning ecosystem.
So, we've met all the players, biotic and abiotic. But how do they all connect? It's not just that they're neighbors. There's this super important invisible thread that ties them all together, the flow of energy.
Yeah, this quote really hits you, doesn't it? It captures something that's tough to swallow, but is so true. Our gut reaction is, save the butterfly. But in nature, one animal's lunch is another animal's survival. And that simple act, eating and being eaten, is how energy gets transferred. It's the absolute core of what we call the food chain.
It's pretty straightforward, really. Here's how it works. At the very bottom, you have producers. Think plants. They're amazing. They literally make their own food using sunlight. Then along comes a primary consumer, like a rabbit, who munches on the plant. Wham! The energy from the plant just got transferred to the rabbit. Next up, a secondary consumer, maybe an eagle, swoops down and eats the rabbit. And just like that, the energy moves up the chain again.
But what about when the eagle's time is up? This is where the system is just genius. You have the decomposers, things like fungi and bacteria. They're like nature's ultimate cleanup and recycling crew. They break down all the dead stuff, sending all those good nutrients right back into the soil. And what does that do? It helps new plants grow. And the whole cycle starts all over again. Nothing is wasted. Okay, but here's the really important thing to get. Nature isn't a neat, tidy, straight line. It's messy. That eagle,
It doesn't just eat rabbits, it might also eat a snake, and that snake might have eaten a mouse, and the mouse ate some seeds, so all these little food chains start to overlap and connect, creating something way more complex and, honestly, way stronger, a food web.
So this tangled up web is what keeps the whole system in balance, in harmony. But what happens when you pull on just one of those threads? What happens when it starts to break?
Well, an ecosystem's balance can get thrown off in a couple of ways. You've got the big natural events, volcanoes, forest fires, droughts, huge disruptions. But let's be honest, more and more often the biggest problems are caused by us. Things like deforestation, pollution, just the fact that our world keeps expanding.
And this is a perfect example of that devastating domino effect. Picture this: a tiger's habitat, its forest, gets cleared for farming. Suddenly, its food, deer, boar, is gone. So what does the hungry tiger do? It's forced to go into human villages, and that's when you get attacks on livestock and sometimes even people. You pull that one thread, the tiger's home, and the whole web can unravel. It's a tragedy for everyone involved, wildlife and humans.
And look, this isn't just about big things happening in faraway places. It's closer to home than you think. That plastic bottle you toss out, it can end up in the ocean. The fertilizers and pesticides used to grow our food, they can get into the soil and water. Our seemingly small, everyday choices, they create these ripples that spread out across the entire system.
Yeah, I know. Hearing all that can feel a little overwhelming. But here's the flip side. It's also incredibly empowering. Why? Because if our actions are part of the problem, that means our actions can absolutely be part of the solution.
So, what are we aiming for here? What's the goal? It all boils down to one simple, powerful word: balance. A healthy ecosystem is just like a perfectly balanced scale. Every part, living and non-living, is working together in a way that lets the whole system thrive.
So we're going to leave you with this. You've seen the pieces of the puzzle. You understand how they all fit together. And you've seen what's at stake when those connections break. So the real question, the one that matters most, is what's your role going to be in all this? What's your commitment to keeping the harmony?